afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alyssa Quorum here, and I am joined by Ed Carson on this Tuesday. We're going to get to the action in the major indexes. A nice day, particularly for the NASDAQ. Ed, give us a preview of the stocks that we're going to be analyzing today.
Yes, Ali, we're going to take a look at JD.com, a nice breakout. Upstart, an IPO that was trying to break out today, and Qorvo, which is getting very close to its own buy point.
All right, well, first, here is a look at the NASDAQ gaining about 1% by the session's end. Some nice support at that 21-day line. Yesterday, the S&P 500 gained 0.7% in today's session, and the Dow up about 0.6%. So a nice bounce back after a session that yesterday seemed like a pretty pivotal moment.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice action. It was a good close yesterday, and we rallied today, closing pretty much at session highs. Pretty nice action. Yeah, we had a little test. It's sort of like, hey, here's a little pop quiz, but the quiz wasn't that tough ultimately. One thing I would say is that the stocks, energy stocks did well. Oil prices were up a lot. There was a surprise Saudi oil cut. Chip stocks did well. They did reasonably well yesterday. They didn't actually, a lot of them rose. Software didn't do great. That was still okay. Some of them rose, but usually just smaller amounts.
All right. Well, thanks for that overview of the market. Now let's dive in a little deeper. You mentioned JD.com making an interesting move today, a breakout here of a gain of about 11%, heavy volume, and JD was a little bit tricky the last time that it broke out of a proper base, but Chinese stocks in general moving on a couple of different headlines today, Ed.
Yeah, one of the headlines was that overnight is that the NYSE said, well, we're not going to delist a few of these companies like China Telecom or a few things that, not JD, not its rivals, but still it went reverse course. And then there was a report by CNBC that said, yeah, Alibaba's founder, Jack Ma, isn't missing or essentially under arrest, but just keeping a low profile. And so that, I don't know where that is, but it's like, those two elements just seem to just really inspire big moves in a lot of Chinese stocks, and JD is a big participant here. And as you said, the volume was enormous.
Yeah, so definitely what we like to see on a breakout there, that institutional support. You want to be following the big money, and that is evident in the volume behind this move today. It is still within that proper 5% buy range from the 92.77 pivot point, and finished today just about 12.5% or so above its 50-day moving average. So we're going to keep an eye on those levels for this stock. And elsewhere, let's shift our attention to a name in the IPO space, Upstart UPST. We were looking at this one early on IBD Live as it moved to new high ground, breaking out of an IPO base here. It did pull back from those intraday highs, closed up about 10% here. Ed, what do you make of today's move? I know there was an early entry here that our Chris Gessel was able to spot, but what do you make of this IPO base breakout today?
Yeah, it was pretty strong. Obviously, look, it's like you can't be too disappointed when a stock goes up 10% after two other strong days before that. It's a new record close. So, it's, above that kind of thing. It's above, and it didn't quite close above the prior all-time high, which was the IPO base there. So that was the technical buy point, but you could argue, it basically closed in a buy zone already. And yet you say the early entry, sort of a downtrend, or how you want, if you wanted to start a position. It's profitable. I don't know if it's consistently, it seems to be turning consistently profitable. And any stock now, if you throw in AI on it, it seems to fly. It's like, that gives it a big multiple. It's the .com of our era. But so that may provide a lower cost, higher margin business. That I'm sure is the thinking. And so, and you see, like, it was even a nice prior uptrend. Sometimes when stocks fall, it's nice when you see an uptrend, then the IPO base. That's a nice sign of an IPO base, as opposed to a stock falling off, then coming up. Those can work, but this shows you some real strength, and it shakes out, and here you go.
Yeah, that's right. Cloud-based AI, lots of buzzwords there. We're going to take a quick look at this weekly chart here. If I hover over, you can see that, yes, this did get picked up by our pattern recognition as an IPO base. We also have that relative strength line hitting a new high, and the stock has only been public for a couple of weeks here, so it's still very early in the stock action as well as the story for this company. So it looks like it's one to watch as it attempts to continue to break out. We'll have to see if we can follow up on those gains. And last but not least, let's check in on Qorvo, ticker QRVO, in the semiconductor sector. When I look at this chart, what stands out to me the most is there hasn't really been a period of time over the last year plus where it hasn't been forming some sort of base, it looks like. So it's continuing to move higher here, but forming those nice base formations on the way, and it is forming a somewhat unique pattern now, Ed, the ascending base.
Yeah, and that one's like one thing that's was the trouble with all these bases is that it would then break out and then sort of undercut. It would have been really hard to hold Qorvo on any of these, really, if you look at them, because they definitely undercut quite a bit. I mean, so if you bought on the breakout, just would have been tricky, and that sometimes happens. This ascending base, maybe that'll finally, really see a breakout that you can hold. Along the way at a 3 weeks tight, it broke out of that and then came right back down to that. So it could shake people up, but that sort of became part of this ascending base. It's part of the 5G space. It's part of the Apple chip maker space. There was some positive news about iPhone demand that came from some other Apple suppliers. Apple's moving. It's got a new handle right now. So this is a pretty good space, and chips are doing pretty well. So there's a lot to be said for Qorvo in addition to like its accelerating growth.
Yes, very important thing to see. And it is now about 1% below this 171 buy point. We always add 10 cents to that prior resistance level to get that orthodox or traditional entry point. So 170.90, add 10 cents to that. 171. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. You can bet the conversation is going to continue tomorrow morning on IBD Live, but even sooner than that, Ed, the conversation will continue on Leaderboard Scorecard. So if you are a Leaderboard subscriber, we highly encourage you to participate in this monthly exclusive webinar for subscribers. We're talking about the most recent month's action and answering your questions, talking about the different features of the platform, our strategies, and stocks that we have on the leaderboard right now. So make sure you head to leaderboard.investors.com to check that out. Starting at the bottom of the hour, it's about an hour-long webinar. And we have a banner at the top of the leaderboard page with the link. That is how you will be able to access the webinar. And if you miss it, never fear, because we always make the recording available to you so you can watch it that way as well. And then tomorrow morning, we'll have IBD Live. You can check out all the details on our daily morning live stream where our experts are sharing their screens, talking about news of the morning headlines early. Right there, Ed. We know we've got a lot of questions about how does Ed compile, and Dave and Ken, how do they get all of their headlines from early in the morning? You guys are breaking everything down in such a great way for our audience members, and we're talking about market conditions and portfolio management strategies and more. So a lot to talk about every day. It's hard to end the show every day. We would love to do it all day if we could. But,
yeah, we do go on.
Try
And
to pack it all in.
We sort of continue the conversation afterward as it goes on. But I'd say the big headline going into tomorrow's show is that we're going to have David Ryan on the program, and you can talk more about David because it's really great to have him on.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that again. If you haven't checked out IBD Live, now is the time to do so, because David, one of IBD founder Bill O'Neill's proteges, he's often a speaker, not just on our webinars, but at our master's programs of the past that we've had. He really knows what he's doing in the market, and we're really excited to get his perspective on the market and stock ideas, how he handles his portfolio. I'm sure we're going to have have a lot of questions for him. So definitely make sure to join us, investors.com/IBD Live, for all the details on that. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.